Hey guys, Chris Tate here for CG Tuts. Okay, so in this tutorial we're just going to be modeling this roof hatch you see here. And it's fairly simple and straightforward. I don't think it should take us too long to do. This tutorial is aimed at beginners, so I'm going to try to make a point of going pretty slow through the process and just explain what I'm doing so everybody can follow me okay. And if you look over here you can see pretty much the order that we're going to build it in. Alright, so we'll start down here at the bottom, build the hatch, then we'll put the door on, and then we'll start building in the railings, and we'll add these brackets and bolts and all that stuff, and then we'll throw the handle on, and finally we'll finish up the model by adding the chain across the top. And I'll be using Max 9 for this. If you have a newer version, that's fine. We will be using ring, loop, connect, and inset a fair amount, so as long as you have a version of Max that supports those tools, you should be fine to follow along, even if you are using a different version from me. Okay, so that's the plan, and let's jump over to Max and get started. Okay, so here we are in Max, and the first thing I'm going to do before we start modeling is just open up a picture we can use for reference. Alright, that's usually a good idea to have some type of reference material when you're modeling. Alright, so let's go to the Utilities tab, open it up, and we'll just open up the asset browser. Alright, I just have a picture saved here, so I'm going to open that up. And I just found this on Google, and we'll just use this as a reference and kind of a guide to build our model. I don't think we'll match it maybe exactly to the reference, but I think we'll try to get it as close as we can. And if you'd actually like to have this picture yourself to work with when you follow along, you can download it from the tutorial section of my personal website, which is christateonline.com. Alright, so let's just take a look at this. Alright, and I think we'll start probably with the biggest piece first. That's usually how I like to work, so we'll start down here with the hatch. And as you can see, it's pretty simple. It's basically just a box. Alright, so I think we'll start with one of those, and we'll just modify it. And I think we'll start at the bottom and just work our way up until we get to the door up here. Okay, so let's go over to the create panel and grab a box. And I'm just going to drag one out in the top view. Alright, and you don't need to worry about the size or anything just yet. Just want to get one in here, and let's also center it to the origin. And the easiest way to do that is just right click on the move tool up here, and then just zero out these spinners by right clicking them. Okay, and that'll snap it to the center of the grid. Alright, so before we adjust the size, I'm just going to set up my scene quickly. Alright, so I'm going to get rid of these grids back here by hitting G in each view. And then we might as well turn on the smooth and edged faces, F3 and F4 in each view. Alright, and I'm not a huge fan of these selection brackets around everything, so let's get rid of those too by hitting J. Okay, and I'm also going to change my mesh color to black, and just assign a default gray shader. Alright, you can open up the material editor by pressing M on the keyboard, or you can hit this little button up here. Alright, either way you want to do it. And this stuff's all personal preference. If the grids don't bother you and you don't mind having the selection brackets on, you can just leave it. There's no real reason to take it off, it's just I find it distracting, so I always turn it off when I start modeling. Alright, so with that done, let's open up the modify panel, and if we look at our reference here, it looks to me like this hatch is pretty much a square, so I think we'll just say it's square and we'll make ours square. Okay, so let's go over here, and I'm just going to be using max generic units for this, so we won't actually be building this to any kind of real world scale. And I think for the length I'm just going to maybe try 50, and we'll do 50 on the width as well. Alright, and for the height, let's try maybe 20 or so. See how that looks. And that should be fine just as like a starting point. Okay. Alright, like I mentioned, I think we'll start at the bottom, so we'll build out this flashing piece first. Okay, so let's start with that. Alright, so I'm just going to right click and convert this to editable poly. Okay, and then we'll go over here to edge, and now we're going to want to add another loop around this so we can pull that flashing piece out. Alright, so let's just grab a corner edge, and we'll do a ring on that. And normally when I work, I pretty much do everything through keyboard shortcuts because it's a lot quicker. I think just for the sake of the tutorial, I'm going to do everything through the interface just to make sure everybody can follow what I'm doing. But keyboard shortcuts are definitely a good idea. Alright, so we'll do a ring just to get all four corners selected, and then let's open up connect. Alright, and for this we'll do one segment, no pinch, and I'm just going to slide the loop down pretty close to the bottom of this box. Alright, and we'll go pretty far down because we want this this flashing piece to be pretty thin. Okay, so we'll say maybe negative 97 or so on the slide, and just hit OK. Alright. And then I'm going to go in here on the corner and just select one of these little tiny corner edges. Alright, and then we'll do another ring. Alright, just to get all four corners. I'm going to hold down Control and just click on Polygon over here to convert the selection. And what that does when you hold down Control is it just converts whatever you have selected to whatever you click on. So we were on edge, and it just converted those edges to the corresponding polygons because we held Control. Alright, so all the way around. Alright, so that's a lot quicker than actually going around and selecting stuff manually. Alright, especially when you have like a lot of faces. Okay, so with those guys selected, let's open up Extrude. Alright, and for this we want to be on local normal, just so it extrudes out evenly in each direction. Alright, and I think 10 might be too much. Let's take another look. Yeah, I might back it off a little bit. Let's try maybe 8 and see how that looks. Alright, so I think that's close enough. Alright, so I'm just going to zoom in here on the reference, and you can see up here at the top it almost has like an extrusion. Kind of has a step out, and then it goes up into the door, and then it has almost like a drip edge piece that comes out of that. Alright, so I think we'll build in this extruded piece here first, and just pull the edge out of that piece. Okay, so let's go back to edge, grab another corner, do a ring, and open up Connect again. Alright, and for this we'll do one segment and no pinch, and I'm just going to slide the loop down a bit, just to about where I figure that piece should start sticking out at. Alright, maybe negative 65 or so on the slide, and OK. Right, I think that looks about right. Okay, so let's just repeat the process we used down here. I'm just going to grab a corner edge again, do another ring, then Control click Polygon one more time. Alright, and then we'll just open up Extrude here and just pull these guys out. And that's obviously way too much. Let's back that off quite a bit. Alright, so I'll say 3 on the extrusion height just to make it easy, and local normal again. Okay. Alright, so I think that's fine. Let's actually start bringing out this edge piece here. Alright, so back to edge, and your corner should still be selected. If not, just select one and do another ring on it. And we'll open up Connect one more time, and same deal here, one segment, no pinch, and the slide, and let's just go up on it. Alright, just want to push the edge down close to the bottom of that extruded piece. And 70 looks like it might be okay. Alright, and we'll hit OK. And then same deal one more time. Grab a corner edge, ring, Control click Polygon, and then open up Extrude. Alright, that might be a little too much. Let's try maybe half of that. So we'll take it down to 1.5 and hit OK. Alright, that looks like it should be fine. But we also want this piece to slant down a bit. So with those still selected, those polys, let's go to Move and just drag them down on the Z axis just a little bit. Alright, just to get the slanted sloped piece on there. Alright, so that looks fine. Just take a quick look. Alright, so I think that should work. I mean, we're not going to be exact to our reference. If we look on here, you can see this edge is quite a bit thinner than what we have going here. Alright, so we could actually thin that up. I think I actually might leave it just as it is, a little fatter. And we'll just move on, okay? And I think we'll model our hatch closed just like on the reference picture. But I'm just thinking ahead that, you know, maybe at some point we want to be able to have the option to open the door up. So I'm thinking we should probably, you know, model the opening in just in case, so later on we can do that if we want to. And it's only going to take, you know, an extra minute or two. So yeah, I think we'll do that. If you were definitely going to leave yours closed and never open it, there's really no reason to waste your time putting the opening in. And there's also no real reason to keep these polygons on top here, because you'd never see them. Alright, so you could just go along and select all these guys and just delete them. But yeah, we'll play it safe and just model it in, because it's only going to take a sec. Alright, so I'm going to go back to polygon here and just select that top polygon. Alright, that might be a little wide for the opening, so let's go up here to scale. And I'm just going to scale it down on the triangle. Alright, just to shrink it up a bit. And we'll just go down until we get it about the size that looks, you know, about right. It doesn't have to be anything exact, just do it to where you feel it should be. Alright, so I might try it there. And we're also going to want to punch this through to create the hole, so let's just open up extrude one more time. And I'm just going to hit OK right away. Alright, we'll move this polygon manually. So let's go to move. And I'm going to jump out and go into the front view for this, because it'll probably be a little easier to see what we're doing. And we can go into wireframe view of F3. And I'm just going to drag the polygon down on the Y all the way to the bottom. Alright, so I'll zoom in here. And I'm just going to try to line it up with that bottom edge of the flashing piece we made. Okay, just like that. Alright, and we don't need that polygon anymore. Let's delete it by hitting delete. Okay, and let's go around to the bottom side. And you can still see the outline of it here. Alright, so I think what I might do is just grab this polygon on the bottom, and we'll scale this down. So up to scale again, and I'm going to scale on the triangle, and we'll just shrink it down until it kind of matches those edges. Alright, it doesn't have to be perfect, just get it as close as you can. That might be fine right there. So let's delete this guy too by hitting delete. Alright, just so the hole goes all the way through. Okay, and if you were going to put this hatch model on a building roof or something, you could delete these bottom polygons here, because again, they're going to be against the roof and you're never going to see them, so there's no real reason to have them in here. I think just for the tutorial I'm going to leave them, and we'll weld up these corners here and just make sure it's all solid and welded up. Okay, so let's go to vertex, and I'm just going to go over here and grab a pair of the verts on the corner of the inside of that hole. And you can always look over here, it'll tell you how many verts you have selected. And you can see we have 2. So let's open up weld. Alright, and by default, the threshold will be set to 0.1. And that's fine in our case because we have verts that are really close together. And you can see here that before we weld we have 48, and after we do it we'll have 47. So we know they're going to snap together. If you don't see this number change, just try upping the threshold until you see it change, or you see them snap together in the viewport. Alright, and then you'll know they're going to weld. But this is fine in our case, so let's just hit OK. And again, you can see over here now we only have 1, so we know it welded. Alright, so we'll just repeat that on the other 3 corners. Alright. Alright, all the way around, and weld. Okay, just to make sure it's all solid and we don't have any open edges. Alright, so let's exit vertex and just take a look. Alright, so I think that should be fine. I mean, it's pretty simple, but it's looking decent. Alright, so before we actually move on to doing the door, let's take one more look here. And I think we're going to want to soften up some of the edges on this. And if you look in here, you can see it has, fairly hard edges. I guess this would be made out of, sheet metal or something. So yeah, we're going to want to soften them up a little bit, but we don't want to go too much, or else it's probably not going to look right. Okay, so let's do that first before we do the door. Alright, so I'm going to go to edge, and we'll just grab a corner again, and do a ring, and then we'll also do a loop. Alright, just so all the loops are selected in all 4 corners, all the way around. Okay, and we'll just soften these up, and that's, a good idea in pretty much every case. You should, chamfer your edges when you're modeling. It'll give you a nice look in render when you render it, because you'll have another edge for the light to catch. It'll look a little softer and a little more realistic. Alright, so it's usually a good idea to do. So let's do that now. Alright, so with these loops selected, let's open up chamfer, and let's just drop the amount down. Alright, I want them to be, fairly sharp still, but we don't want to go, too much. Let's see. That might be fine right there. So I'm going to say 0.15 and OK. Alright, so the corners are done. Let's grab these 2 edges down here on the flashing piece, and we'll do another loop, and chamfer again. Alright, and for these ones, I'm going to lower the amount down a bit, just so they're a little tighter together. Alright, so I'll say 0.05 or so, and OK. And now let's grab this guy here, and we'll do another loop. Alright, and chamfer. Alright, I might soften this one up a little more, so let's go up a little bit, not too much. Maybe 0.1, and we'll say OK, and then let's go up to the drip edge piece and grab 2 of those edges on the outside. Loop, chamfer. And I might actually leave that one like that, so I'll say 0.1 for those ones, and OK. and then we'll grab the one on top and the one underneath, holding control, and loop, and we'll just do both these ones at the same time. Alright, so chamfer again. And for these I might tighten them up. So let's take it down again. Alright, so I think I'll do 0.05 or so, and OK. And you don't have to match the the same amount exactly. Just do it to where you feel it looks like it works. Alright. And I think I'll do the top two just to be safe in case we ever open up the door. Alright, so we'll grab these two guys and loop again, and chamfer one more time. Alright, I think I'm going to soften up the top edges a little more than the rest. Alright, so I'm going to go up a bit. Alright, I'm going to say maybe 0.2 on those ones, and OK. Alright, and let's exit edge. Alright, so let's just take a look at it. And you can toggle your edges on with F4. Alright, so let's take a look with them off, see how it looks. I think that should be fine for this piece. Okay, so let's name it. So I'm just going to call it hatch. And we might as well center the pivot point on this as well. So let's open up the hierarchy tab and just click effect pivot only, and then click centered object, and then click this guy to turn him back off. Okay, just so the pivot point's centered again. Alright, so we'll say that's good for the hatch piece. Let's actually save, probably be a good idea. Alright, so I'm just going to make a new folder here. Just call it roof hatch or whatever you like. Alright, and save. And it's a good habit to get into, saving every 5 or 10 minutes or so, just because Max does crash fairly frequently, and you don't want to lose much of your work. Okay, so hatch is done. Let's take another look at the reference. Just check out the door piece here. And I mean, it's pretty simple as well. It's basically just another box. We do have the handle on there, but I don't think we really need to cut a hole into the door for it or anything. And I would guess the hinges for the door are probably on the inside, so I don't think we need to worry about those either. Alright, so yeah, let's just start with another box for this piece. Alright, so we'll jump out, and I'm just going to go into the top view. Alright, zoom in here, and we'll just go to another box, grab one of those on the curry panel, and just drag one out. And again, you don't need to worry about the size or anything just yet. We'll figure that out in a sec. Alright, so let's get one in there, just give it a little bit of height, and let's center it. Alright, so right click on the move tool, and just right click to zero these spinners out. Okay, just so we know it's going to be centered on our hatch. Alright, and I'm just going to go out and just move it up in the front view, so it's sitting kind of on top of the hatch. Alright, just to make it a little easier to judge the size we need. Alright, now I'm just going to change my color on this piece as well. Again, that's personal preference. You don't have to do it this way. You can use a completely different color if you want. Completely up to you. Alright, so let's take one more look. Alright, so it doesn't have a huge overhang. It sticks out a bit, but not a lot. Okay, so let's just open up the modify panel again, and I'm just going to take the length down to maybe 60, and we'll just see how that looks. Alright, I think that's going to be too much. Let's go down a little farther, maybe 58. Try that. Alright, that's closer. I think I might try 57 and just see. Alright, so I think that's better. So let's do 57 on the length and the width. Okay. And for the height, let's see. Let's see what maybe 3.5 would look like. Alright, that's pretty close. Okay, so we'll say that's good. So yeah, we'll do 57 by 57 by 3.5 high. Okay. Alright, so it's looking pretty boring right now. It looks like we just put a box on top and left it. So I think we'll try to give this piece a little bit more detail. Alright, so let's convert it to editable poly. Right click, convert to editable poly. Alright, I think what I might do is just go to polygon and then grab that bottom polygon, okay, on the door, and I think I might just inset this. Let's open up inset. Okay, and we'll just raise the amount a little bit just to get it closer to the outside edges of our hatch. Okay, but I still want to leave a bit of a gap in here. Alright, so I'll just say 1.15 or so on the amount and hit OK. Alright, and let's also punch this up inside the door. Okay, so let's open up extrude one more time. This time we'll take it down to a negative amount so we can punch it in. Alright, and we can probably see this easier in the front view. Let's take a look in there. Alright, so it doesn't have to be anything exact. I'm just going to say maybe -1 or so on the extrusion height, and we'll just hit OK. Alright, and we can exit polygon here. And I'm just going to move the door down so it's kind of sitting on the hatch. Right, just like this. Alright, and I mean, when we're done, you're probably really not going to see any of this detail anyway, but there's no real reason not to put it in. It doesn't take too long. Alright, so let's try to take a look. A little awkward. Alright, so you can see we got a bit of a gap around the hatch. Alright, so I think that'll just help sell it a little more that this is actually a piece sitting on top of this piece. Alright. So before we finish up the door, let's actually soften up some of the edges. Alright, so it matches down here. Let's go back to edge and just grab a corner, and we'll do a ring, and let's also do a loop. Okay, and we'll open up chamfer, and we don't have to go exactly the same amount we used down at the bottom. I think I might try to match it, but you can do a different amount if you want to. You don't want to go drastically different between the two, because then it's not really going to look right, because they would be made out of the same material. Alright, so let's lower it down, and I think I did 0.15 on the bottom. Just try that here. Yeah, that looks about right. Alright, so I'm just going to match that and just match it with this one down here. Alright, so 0.15 and OK. And then I'm going to hit Control I to invert the edge selection. Alright, and we'll do all the rest of them at the same time. So chamfer again. Alright, and we could leave it the same amount for these. I'm just going to take another look here. The edge is fairly hard. I think I might just go up a little bit on this. Not too much. Alright, that might be fine. So for these ones I'll do 0.25 and hit OK. Alright, and let's exit edge and just take a look. Alright, so you can see we got a bit of a gap in there, and that's what we're looking for. Okay, so that should be fine for the door. So let's name it. And I'm just going to call it door. And we'll also center the pivot on this guy, so let's open up the hierarchy tab again, click effect pivot only, click centered object, and then click this to turn it back off. Alright. Alright, so I think that should be fine for the hatch. Let's save one more time. Okay, so let's take another look at our reference. Just want to make sure I didn't miss anything down at the bottom here. Alright, I think we got everything we needed to. Alright, so before we actually start building on the railings, if you look in here you can see there's a block or a piece, almost like a spacer, stuck in there. You can't really tell what it looks like, but I think it's probably just there to space the railing out far enough so the post won't hit the lid. Alright, so I think we'll start with that piece and then we'll build the railing. Okay, and it looks like it could be two pieces stuck together, I'm not sure. I think we can probably just do it out of one piece, and we'll just add a seam so it gives the appearance that it might be two. Okay, so let's go into the front view for this. Alright, and we'll just go over to the create panel and grab another box, and I'm just going to drag one out kind of where we want that piece to be, so maybe right there. Okay, we'll just give it a little bit of height, and we'll tweak it in a sec. Alright, so we just want it to be sitting up against the side of the hatch, and I'm just going to set it just underneath the drip edge piece here. Okay, and if you look on the reference, it looks like it sticks out a bit past the edge of the hatch down here, and it stops just underneath the drip edge. Okay, so let's figure out how long it needs to be. Alright, so in the modify panel, we know this is 50 by 50 because that's the size of our box when we started. So I think let's try 55 on the height for this and see if that works. Alright, and let's just get it into place. So I'm going to go up here and into the hierarchy tab and center the pivot again. So effect pivot only, center object, and then turn this off. And then I'm going to go over to the move tool and right click it. Alright, and this time I'm just going to right click on the Y axis to zero it out. Okay, just so it snaps back into place. Alright, we can close this. Alright, that'll just make it a little easier to judge the length we have sticking out. Alright, that's probably actually okay right there. Alright, so let's go back to the modify panel. Alright, so I'll leave the height at 55. Just going to check here. I'm just going to take a look in the front view. I just want to make sure that we go wide enough here that when we stick the rail on the side over here and our post comes down, it's not going to hit our lid. Alright, so we just want to make sure we go out far enough. So I think I might just do, let's try maybe 3.3 on the length and 3.3 on the width. Let's see if that looks like it might work. And I think that should be fine. Okay, so we'll do that, and let's just make sure it's sitting in the right spot. Don't want it to be floating. Alright, so that looks good. Alright, so now we can add the seam to it. Alright, so I'm going to go into isolation mode here to make it a little easier, and you can do that by hitting Alt-Q. Alright, and what that does is it just hides everything that's not selected. Alright, so you can see what you're doing a little easier. Alright, so let's change the color first. Alright, and we can convert this to editable poly. Right click, convert to editable poly. Alright, so let's put the seam on it. So I'm going to go to edge and just grab one of these ones, and we'll do a ring. Let's also do a connect. Alright, this time we'll use 2 segments. And I'm just going to pinch them together. Alright, so we'll lower the pinch amount so they get closer together. And we'll go fairly close. Alright, that might be fine right there. So maybe negative 85 on the pinch, no slide, and OK. Alright, and I'm going to hold Control again and click on Polygon to convert the selection, and then I'm going to hit Shrink one time. Alright, just to shrink the selection. We just want to be left with this little thin strip of polygons all the way around. That'll become our crack. Alright, so we can just push this in, I think, with Extrude, so let's open up Extrude. Alright, and again for this we want to be on local normal. And let's just lower the height down to a negative amount, just to push it in a bit. I don't think we need to go too much. That might even be fine right there. So I'm going to say negative 0.35 on the height, and we'll hit OK. Alright, so this is a little awkward. It's a tiny little detail, but I think we'll chamfer the edges on the inside of this crack. You probably won't end up seeing this stuff anyway, but it'll only take a second to do. Alright, so what I might do here, just to make it a little easier to select, is just Control-click Edge again, to convert our polygon selection to edges, and I'm just going to go into the front view and zoom in here, way in, okay, and I'm just going to hold Alt and just deselect these guys by dragging through them, okay, and for this you want to make sure you don't have Ignore Backfacing turned on here, else it won't deselect the back one, okay, so do those guys, and then same thing down here at the bottom, hold Alt and just drag through, okay, and as you can see we still do have the loops selected around, okay, and that's what we want. Alright, so we'll just chamfer these down. I think I'm going to look at this in the front view because it'll probably be a little easier to tell how much we need to do. Okay, so I'm just going to blow that up. And let's open up chamfer. Okay, and I'm just going to lower the amount down. Probably have to go way down on this. Alright, just want to make sure we don't have anything crossing. Alright, that actually might be fine right there. So let's say 0.02 on the amount and hit OK. Alright. So you can see we just soften those up a bit. Okay, so let's do all the rest of them at the same time. So I'm going to hit Control-I one more time to invert the selection. Alright, and we'll do all these guys. So let's open up chamfer one more time. Alright, and these ones we can probably go up a little bit more on. And again, you can always turn off your edges with F4 just to get a better idea of what it's actually going to look like. Alright, so I'm going to say 0.07 on those ones, and OK. Alright, I think that should be fine. Let's exit edge, and also exit isolation mode by clicking up here. Okay. And I'm just going to take a look and see if this looks like it's going to be okay. Alright, and that should be fine, I think, for that piece. We're not really going to be able to see it when we're done because we're going to have a rail on the side anyway. Okay, so let's select it, and I'm just going to center the pivot on it. Alright, so hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, centered object. Alright, turn that back off. And let's also name it. And I think I'll just call this railing block or something, whatever you like, just as long as you know what it is. Okay, and then we're also going to want to copy over on the other side, so let's do that too. Alright, so I'm going to go back into the front view for this. Okay, and there's a lot of ways in Max you can make copies. You can go up to Edit and go to Clone to copy it, or you can hold down Shift and just drag on one of the axes to copy it, or you could use Mirror, or you could use Symmetry. There's a lot of ways to do it, but the fastest way is with Shift, so that's what we'll do. Let's hold down Shift, and I'm just going to drag on the X-axis over to the other side. Alright, and we'll do a copy, and OK. And let's zoom in and just make sure it's positioned properly. Alright, so I'm just going to move it over a bit, just up against the side of the hatch. Alright, so that looks good. Okay, let's check it out in perspective. Alright, so it's coming along slowly. Alright, let's save, just in case we have a crash.